Did one AFC North running back cement his status as an early second-round pick? What do we know about one rookie tight end that we didn't know before last night? And who is the proper target to select in the Jacksonville Jaguars backfield? Plus, the 10-time FFPC League champion and 2025 FFPC Pros versus Joe's drafter, Walid Makbul, will hop aboard to discuss his strategy for this year's challenge, his expectations for Tyreek Hill this season, and much more. We've got a great show for you. Ferrell Elliott is here. I'm Eric Balkman. Stick around. Your high-stakes fantasy football hour starts now.
Can't stand the pressure. I've seen greater men than need a lesson.
Broadcast live and heard around the world, you are now watching the most entertaining hour of radio on the planet. Welcome to the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by myffpc.com with your hosts Eric Balkman and Ferrell Elliott. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is your home for analysis from the best players in the world. And now, because no one else was available, here are Eric Balkman and Ferrell Elliott.
Solace in the scripture. Are we not all our father's sons? I became a man. Nobody ever told me what a man was.
Thank you, Rob, and greetings and salutations to all of you Balkaholics here tuning in live to the FFPC High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. The Balkaholics are here, the Ferrelliacs are here, and so are you. It is the freshest episode of the HSFF Hour presented to you by myffpc.com. Once again, I'm your slightly above average host, Eric Balkman. You know me from the road of his High Stakes Lowdown, the FFPC Insider Access Show on the Better Sports Network, and of course, the Fantasy Football Players Championship. Connect with me on X at Eric Balkman. My co-host is the definitive commissioner of fantasy football, Ferrell Elliott. Bring him on shortly. Coming up on tonight's show, we're going to debate George Pickens' fantasy value in Dallas, how much you should be targeting the pieces of the Houston Texans passing game, and the 10-time FFPC League champ and 2025 FFPC Pros versus Joe's drafter, Walid Makbul, is going to join us to talk about Travis Etienne, Marshawn Lloyd, and so much, much more. If you want to connect with the show on X, it is at HSFF Hour. Check out Ferrell's Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship at KFFSC.com. Post on our Facebook page at facebook.com/HSFF Hour. You can also email the show at highstakesfantasyfootball@gmail.com. If you have any questions for us, send them in now. We'll try to get to all the chat room questions, X posts, and emails in the fantasy feedback segment coming on later in the show. Shout out to our audio engineer, my best friend Bryce, and of course, our producer and mutual friend Rob. Want to let you know, in case you were not aware, and if you've been watching this show, you definitely should be aware, that the FFPC Fantasy Pros Championship is now the FFPC Big Gorilla. $1 million grand prize at stake, $350 to enter. You're going to get a $50 discount for every third team you sign up. Don't forget about the 7 Bananas promo, where you can win free FFPC Best Ball Tournament teams, FFPC Main Event teams, FFPC High Society teams, and a free jungle safari for $4,000 or $50,000. And that's without even doing anything in the contest, just for getting the 7 pick multiple times in a row. The FFPC Main Event is also something we're proud to call our second, or I guess our first, $1 million contest. It is $1 million going out to first place. So that's two separate FFPC challenges that have $1 million grand prize. Don't forget, it's a $6 million prize pool, live drafts, slow drafts going off each and every day until the start of the NFL season. FFPC Superflex and Best Ball tournaments are available now at myffpc.com. That Best Ball tournament features a $300,000 grand prize, only costs $125 to enter. The Superflex grand prize is $100,000. That's only $35 to enter, and we added a $100,000 runner-up grand prize in the FFPC Best Ball Tournament this year as well. If you like playing Dynasty, and quite frankly, who doesn't at this point, you like playing fantasy football, do it every single day of the year. MyFFPC.com is your home for that. We've been doing it for 15 years, 2,000-plus leagues. None have ever folded. You are in an FFPC Dynasty League for as long as you want to be in it. MyFFPC.com is where to go for that. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment on the video, share with your friends, share with your enemies, and get notified each and every time we go live. I am proud to bring on the definitive commissioner of fantasy football, one Ferrell Elliott. Ferrell, so good to have you on tonight, and I am proud to let you know that I am now a member and a drafter of the Super Luke KFFSC slow main event. I was texting back and forth with our mutual friend Jim Cole, who comes from the Pacific Northwest. He and I are sharing a team in that. And if you release another slow draft, I can tell you we're probably going to be in that one as well. So KFFSC.com is where to go. Plenty of online stuff available. I believe Northern Kentucky is sold out. Correct me if I'm on that if I'm wrong. There's still some stuff in Louisville, but the main event onlines, which are going on like almost every night until the start of the season, that's where it's at KFFSC.com.
Yes, sir. And our main event in Cincinnati is sold out. I'd like to thank everyone from Northern Kentucky because, we are no longer in Cincinnati, even though it is the Cincinnati Airport Marriott Hotel. That's where you'll find us, and all the people that are coming already, already know where they're going. But yes, go online, and we still have some live spots in Louisville, Balky. You are so correct. What I want to bring attention to tonight, my friend, is that in the chat room, it appears that all of our listeners are also keeping an eye on tonight's exhibition schedule. We got a great exhibition schedule for football. The Jets just landed and got hoteled at the Paper Valley Hilton there in Appleton. They're good to go in prime time tomorrow night against the Packers. Now, our guest tonight is...
Hold on. Before you get to that, Ferrell, as long as you bring up the Jets staying at the Paper Valley, I had to pick up my daughter at my folks' house tonight. We had dinner there. And as we're driving home, we go downtown College Avenue here in Appleton, Wisconsin. And the fans are already hanging out at the front of the Paper Valley, hoping for photos, selfies, and autographs from Breece Hall, from Aaron Glenn, from Justin Fields, and all the Jets that are going to be staying there tonight.
Yes, and root for Sam Jackson, number 68, offensive lineman. We'll play in the second half. And look, what's the name of our guest tonight?
We have Walid Makbul on the show tonight, a 10-time FFPC league champ. Yes.
And Walid comes in with his own fans. Now, this is a good thing. These guys come in to greet Walid. His crew is here in support. And then we have James Hicks. You got Oinker anywhere handy?
James, I do right here. Oinker is live, James.
James Hicks shows up, and he gives us a compliment. He says the weekend starts with the best show in fantasy football, which is high praise from James Hicks, and is the reason that James Hicks is loved. And then we have John Terry. And John Terry says, "What channel, James?" No one else responds. John gives his own laugh out loud. So I'm dealing with the fact that we're having Terry in the room, in the ballroom this year. And, I'm going to work. One of the biggest struggles in my life, but I'm going to take it on. Since we sold out Cincinnati early, I've got a little extra time. I'm going to help John Terry begin to build a fan base and become a little more Kentucky sensibilities. It's going to be a tough job. But, Balky, you think I can do it?
Listen, if anybody can, it's you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. Excited to see John not only in Louisville, but in Las Vegas as well.
Oh, he'll leave from Louisville to Las Vegas and get there early.
It's such a fun, anybody who's watching this show, your next 4 weekends are set, right? Mm-hmm. So you have this weekend of drafting to prep for Northern Kentucky, which is next weekend. Then after Northern Kentucky, we get Louisville, which is going to be massive once again this year. I can't wait to get down there for that. Then you have Labor Day weekend where you have the Big Gorilla Labor Day Draftathon. KFFSC is popping off that weekend. It's sort of your last gasp before Paris Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas for all the FFPC main events this year. And that's week 1, man. And then we're off and running. We are off and running after that.
And Bucky, it's just a great time of the year. And it's all the early drafting that we did is paying dividends now. If you look at the draft boards, you'll see some of the names that were drafted at our Super Bowl event and then the Never Too Early in the FFPC. And you'll see all these things that are happening. And you'll say, hey, man, I've secured these players on my roster a long time ago. Derek Greer chimed in today after Tyler Warren's pretty successful go. And he said, you know what? I've got this player all throughout my early Kentucky drafts. And, excited about that. So it's a great – you mentioned drafting year round, and I think that's what everyone should do.
The more I do it, it feels like, whether you're drafting in January or February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, it's always new. Like, I know we're drafting for one season, but the draft is always new. Things always change in the draft, and that's why I always encourage people to draft as much as you can, as long as you can, because it's different every time. And the stuff we're going to be talking about on the show tonight is proof positive of that. You think about a month ago, nobody was touching Jaden Blue. We talked about this, Ferrell, 2 weeks ago on the show. Nobody was touching Jaden Blue with a 10-foot pole. And now we saw everybody nabbing him over the last couple of weeks because the positive news coming out of Dallas made everybody think like, hey, this is the guy to draft in Dallas. Now, as we pivot again, he's dealing with a bruised ankle from Todd Archer, coming from ESPN.com, who covers the Cowboys. He stated that they were still waiting for an update from Brian Schottenheimer, but yesterday is when Jaden Blue left practice with an ankle injury. He did not come back, and now we don't know, is he going to miss 1 week? Is he going to miss 2 weeks? Is it longer than that? We don't know. Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders is who Blue was pushing, getting first-team carries here. He was running after now Sanders, I will say he was held out for an injury, so obviously Blue was running ahead of him, but he was running with the ones. And when you look at the FFPC Big Gorilla Tournament, which anytime we cite ADP on this show, it's always due to fantasymojo.com, Darren Armani's website, who is the godfather of the FFPC Pros versus Joes. Anytime you are drafting in the FFPC, you want to make sure you are logging into fantasymojo.com to get the latest ADP on Jaden Blue. And any player, quite frankly, on that. But I think the thing we have to bring up here, Ferrell, is what we do with Jaden Blue in drafts right now. Because, you still have Javonte Williams there. Miles Sanders a little bit dinged up as well. But he's the rookie. He's the mystery box. And when you consider that you can get him in a double-digit round in the FFPC Big Gorilla or the FFPC Main Event, quite frankly, the KFFSC Main Event right now, this is a guy that I believed in from the get-go. I still believe in him. And despite this bruised ankle, I'm still a believer in Jaden Blue. How do you feel about him?
Bucky, you were all over Bucky Irving last year, and it seems like Blue's this year's Irving for us. Now, it's being.
I'm not going to go that far. But there's a non-zero chance you could be right.
Yeah, well, if he's got a boot on, which is done for the comfort of the player. Now, Adam Hahn dropped in here and said it's a bone bruise. Other reports say it's a heel bruise, which could be the same thing depending on how deep the heel bruise is. It's all a lot of personal aspect of how these guys recover from it, what their pain tolerance is. But it has the attachment of the nagging injury, and that's surely not what you want with a rookie in his first year, is nagging injury. But I applaud the Cowboys of getting this player in the mix. I'd like to see – there's lots of other rookie backs that I would have liked to have seen play more in their first year. Blue is a situation where if he can get on the field, I think he's an interesting player, 5'9", a real aggressive sized player, is less than 200 pounds, but yeah, I like him. Good cutback speed. It's a good player.
So the next thing I want to go to is something we saw last night in the Bengals game. Chase Brown, 5 carries for 23 yards. He also was targeted by Joe Burrow 3 times. He caught all three targets as well for 25 yards. This was a player who was out there not just by himself, Ferrell. He was out there with Joe Burrow. He's out there with Jamar Chase. He's out there with T. Higgins. If there was any doubt that you had that Chase Brown is not going to be featured in the Bengals offense, quite frankly, after what we saw last night, we should believe in Chase Brown at this point. Even though Taj Brooks was featured quite a bit, it was with the 2s and 3s. Chase Brown was out there with the 1s. I have full confidence in Chase Brown once again this season, despite his draft capital and despite his size.
If you don't think Chase Brown is going to be featured in this offense, that means that you had red zone on a 3-week trial last year, because he wasn't featured during the first 3 weeks. Not a lot. He still ended up with 229 carries over the rest of the year. Balky, how many receptions? Don't look. How many receptions, Chase Brown? How many?
Let's say I'm gonna throw it out 52.
54. You're right on the number, and that's with little play in the first 3 games. In one game against Baltimore, a game that the Bengals lost, in which they were trying to match that offense, 9 catches, 229 carries. This player was featured last year. He'll be featured even more this year. It's the kind of, when you wonder, it makes you wonder what Cincinnati was thinking about in his rookie year. We just said he's an example of one of those backs I would like to see play earlier. Why didn't they get him? Why didn't they get him on the field? But now they've learned, they got him on the field, and I don't think he's coming off.
I don't think he is either. I mean, I think Taj Brooks will be out there sometimes, but not enough to affect Chase Brown's ADP in the late second, early third round.
Well, now wait a minute. A late second, early third in our latest KFFSC draft.
Yep.
Jamie Cox, who was on our show last week before I had to bolt. Jamie drafted him in the middle of the second round. He is a guy that if you want, you're going to target. You say, I'm going to go get him. Because, Jamie Cox feels just like me. He's going to catch more than 54 balls. How many backs you think going to catch more than 54 balls? I'll be happy with 54 balls. He's going to get more than 229 yards, which means over 1,000 yards rushing. He's going to push some of the first-round draft picks. It's those superlative seasons that they say, that many of our listeners say that Barkley is not going to have, and they're waiting for Henry to break down and all this kind of stuff. Well, if you believe that, then Chase Brown is your guy. Push him up the boards.
To your point, Ferrell, and I just realized this on Fantasy Mojo, his ADP has, I wouldn't say shot up, but moved up over the last 2 days in the FFPC Big Gorilla, where drafters are going for $1 million grand prize. 208 on average for Chase Brown. However, he's gone as high as the 201. So there are some Chase Brown truthers out there that are willing to take him early and often. Be wary of that, especially after last night's performance for the Bengals.
Throw Terry's comment up.
All right, let's
don't forget.
Right here. Yep. Don't forget all those Bengals were playing against a second string defense.
Well, no, damn. Come on, John. Now, first of all you want in preseason, okay, what do you want first? Guys to line up. Let us line up in the right position. Let's snap the ball and throw it to somebody who's in the right position to catch it or hand it off. It's repetitions. It doesn't matter who you're playing against. That's not what this is about.
And in John's defense, he's right. However, Ferrell, to back up your comment on this, like Chase was out there, Higgins is out there, Burrow is out there. We don't doubt the talent of any of those players. I think what cemented Chase Brown for me was knowing how the Bengals treated their supernovas in Burrow, Higgins, and Chase. They're treating Brown the same way. So I don't necessarily bank. I don't necessarily bank in, oh my God, Brown was unbelievably productive. I bank in he was out there with all those other starters, and he was out there a lot.
A sharper guy like our guest would have caught your swag there.
He probably would have, yes. And his fan club is weighing in. One more point I want to make before we get to Walid Makbul tonight, the 10-time FFPC league champ. You mentioned this with Derek Greer early on. Tyler Warren last night, Ferrell. 3 targets, 3 catches, 40 yards. Technically, 4 catches on 4 targets for 47 yards, but that one was called back because of an offensive penalty on a screen pass. This is good. Here's what I take away from that Colts game. Richardson got hurt. We know that. Daniel Jones did not look great. We know that. The quarterback that is going to be in charge of this offense this year probably affects guys like Michael Pittman, with all apologies to you, and Josh Downs more than Tyler Warren. I think regardless of who the quarterback is this year, between Richardson, between Jones, I don't think Tyler Warren is going to be all that effective. I think that this is a player that if you skip the early round tight ends and you wait till 9 of them are off the board or 10 of them are off the board, I'm going to look up what his ADP is right now. Tyler Warren is a player. I'm not going to say he's going to be a league winner, but he could greatly help you this year. He's moved up to tight end 10.
Yep.
He's going at the 7-11. So he is still going behind Kelsey, Engram, Andrews, and Njoku, but he has moved ahead comfortably in front of Loveland, in front of Ferguson, who also had a back contusion yesterday, and Green Bay's own Tucker Kraft mac and cheese. He is going ahead of all those guys right now. Tyler Warren, I think, is a player I'm probably going to be. I've already been in business with in the KFFSC this year. I think I'm going to be in business with him more as we get closer, as we're less than a month away from the start of the NFL season. I think I'm going to be drafting more of Tyler Warren.
It's damn straight. And I would like to, of all those teams that have pumped him up and he's moving up the boards, I would be curious to know what percentage he's the lead tight end and what percentage he's a support tight end.
Yeah.
The second guy. I think that we might see that more often for that player than not.
I want to, without further ado, because his fan club is going to riot in the YouTube chat right now if I don't bring him on. So I'm going to bring him on.
Anticipation is what this show is all about. I'm glad these guys are here. I love it.
So this player that we're bringing on right now, ladies and gentlemen, has not 8, not 9, but 10 FFPC league titles to his name. He drafted in the FFPC Pros versus Joes. And you say, Balky, I don't recognize this name at all. It's because he was in the slow draft, which we don't cover on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. He was in the mysterious Bermuda Triangle slow draft number 7 for the Pros versus Joes this year. He's here to talk about that, as well as all of the drafts that he has done so far with the FFPC in 2025. Please welcome in the dude, the guy, the Joe that was drafting from the 6th spot in the FFPC Pros versus Joes slow draft, the 10-time league champ, Mr. Walid Makbul. Walid, welcome into the show tonight. So glad to have you on tonight, man. Good evening, and how are you?
Gentlemen, first of all, excuse my friends. You know, you let a couple people know that you're going to come kick it with the great Balky and Ferrell, and all of a sudden, you know, they're embarrassing me backstage.
No, they're your friends, man. That's when you have a posse like that, it shows that you're doing a lot of things right in this world, Willie.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate them, and appreciate y'all for having me on. It's like football holidays, right? We got preseason kicking off. I know the sickos like us have been drafting for a few months, so now it's like we get to see Travion Henderson house call kick return, and all of a sudden, you know, we're feeling pretty good about taking him in round 4. It's a lot of energy in the air, so I'm sure we got a lot to talk about.
You mentioned the Henderson special teams touchdown tonight. Henderson also had 1 carry for 18 yards tonight as well. So he's
put him on ice.
You put him on ice, exactly. 3 catches for 12 yards. I've seen enough, Walid. We don't need to see any more from Travion Henderson. I have a local radio show here in Northeast Wisconsin, and I was ripping Matt LaFleur for playing the starters tomorrow night against the Jets. I don't want to see it, man. Keep these guys healthy for the season. It's what we all want to see. And I think the great thing about this too, Walid, is you know, draft this, and I mentioned this at the top of the show, drafting as much as you can in the winter, in the spring, in the early summer, in the midsummer. It always feels like you are entering into a new draft every time you draft a team, because not only does ADP change, not only does player evaluation change over the course of a year, but you're seeing like FFPC drafters themselves, they want to draft different teams. They want to do different things. So it's like the draft you saw in May, that's gone. The draft you saw in late June, that's gone. The draft you saw in mid-July, it's not happening anymore. It's always something different. And I think that's what makes it so much fun and, quite frankly, so challenging.
And then it's also like, oh, you want to wait until Labor Day to start drafting? You think that gives you control over what's going to happen? I promise that we know very little about what's going to happen. So draft early and draft often.
Yeah,
that's old school thinking in a new school world, bro.
Right. And that's and to your point too, like not that I'm discouraging people to draft now. Everybody should be drafting as much as they can before the start of the season. But the closer we get to the start of the year, everybody has the same information. We're all drinking from the same fire hose, and stuff is not covered up as it was before. We're going to get into so much more regarding that throughout the program tonight. Before we get into it, Walid, I want to ask you, when you are not winning these 10 FFPC leagues, when you're not drafting in the FFPC Pros versus Joes, what are you doing to keep yourself busy for a living?
Well, I'm a recruiter, a headhunter. You know, that's why I have this goofy headset. I'm on the phone working with good people and good organizations and trying to align, you know, that long-term fit. So more or less it's a game of chance, right? You just, all you can do is put people in the right positions and be at peace with what happens.
It's so fantastic, Balky. We've got another agent on the show.
Yes.
How great it is. It's wonderful. I love that. Your Pros versus Joes, we would have loved covering your drafting. You had to be thrilled when you got the invite to come in. Everybody does. You're one of the reasons that the pros go home and talk about everything except winning the Pros versus Joes, since they don't. So what did you come away with from that? How'd you like your team? That's sure you liked your team, but what did you come away from that? What did you learn? And did it change anything about any player from your activities 2 or 3 weeks ago in the Pros and the Joes?
Yeah, that's a great question. So first of all, obviously honored to get the invite. When I got the Fantasy Mojo notification, I was like, wait, what? You guys want me to be in it? So yeah, I was thrilled. It was a free entry, right? So maybe I was a little more creative than I usually got. I think 4 of my first 5 picks were non-receivers. Which
almost true. You took McConkey in the second.
Okay, so so I should say McConkey was the only receiver I took.
Okay, so I misspoke. You are right. Out of your first 5 picks from the 6th spot here, McConkey was your only receiver. You did not take a second receiver until round 6, and then you started pounding him. Please go ahead.
Which honestly made me uncomfortable, but knowing that it's a best ball format, knowing that with FFPC you get 2 flex options, I just leaned into it. I said, you know what, I'll start with Josh Allen in round 3, and I think I got Kamara in round 4.
5.
So then
you took Laporta in round 4, and then Kamara in round 5.
Good for me then. Good for me. So then I was like, I was gonna say I really do like the receiver options from round 6 to like round 9, 10. And then there's some fun guys late in the draft that in a redraft format I'm not necessarily targeting, but maybe have my eyes on waivers. But in best ball, it's like I don't have to decide. So you kind of just pick your path and then you lean into it and then try to make the best possible team out of it.
And kudos to you, by the way, Walid. Keenan Allen in the 18th round,
which
now it looks like a top 35 receiver. You get him there after you had already drafted Jaden Higgins, Deebo Samuel, Rome Odunze, Travis Hunter. Some would say like, oh, I don't know about his receivers. And then all of a sudden you hit Allen in the 18th. And quite frankly, I think I'm not a huge Roman Wilson guy in the 20th, but it's the 20th round. Who cares?
Neither am I.
But the Ironmaner pick in the 19th, I think could be a difference maker as well in this format. I want to go off script here a little bit. We were just talking about Tyler Warren, and I want to bring him into to focus here, as well as Colston Loveland, the 2 tight ends that were drafted in the first round of the 2025 NFL Draft Live in glorious Green Bay, Wisconsin. Typically, we don't see tight ends drafted this early that are not successful fantasy players in their first year. I have hit on Loveland. Loveland I drafted more in Dynasty, but Warren, for whatever reason, I've been getting him more in best ball and in redraft leagues. I'm bullish on both of these guys. Are you bullish on those first-round rookie tight ends as well?
Absolutely. You're going to have to make me uncomfortable to not draft these guys, quite frankly. Tyler Warren, he is obviously a later breakout, but he has a draft capital. He is a yak monster, and when a team invests that sort of equity in a player, and we saw it yesterday, like he's going to get design looks. Shane Steichen, they're, let's say, very into the RPO offense. Like, well, why not run the quick passing game to a guy that can break a tackle and get downfield? So especially in a tight end premium format, I mean, this is a guy that can get 100 catches. Loveland, to me, is a little different player. He feels more of like a downfield. Honestly, you could line him up at the X. Like he's kind of like he may not rack up the same amount of volume with the mounts there, but I'm looking at it down the stretch of the season. This guy could be a real difference maker. And a round 8 pick, is that where he's going right now? That to me is like, I'm not losing sleep taking a guy like that in round 8. That is, I'm taking that every day of the week.
Yeah, so right now, Tyler Warren, tight end 10 at the 7-11, to your point. Colston Loveland, 904 in the FFPC Big Gorilla at tight end 13. And he's practicing.
And I've grabbed him in grabbed him in round 10 in a main event. In fact, I had a main event where I took Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland on the same team, which at first it's kind of like, wow, 2 rookie tight ends. That's going to be a little uncomfortable, but I feel so secure about Warren's day 1 role that, whereas Loveland, I could see him with Cole Kmet in the mix with the other weapons there. Maybe that's not an immediate plug and play, but sign me up. I'm taking those guys. You'd have to push them up to like round 6 to make me uncomfortable. Round 5, maybe.
To make our
that's where you guys are pushing them.
That's right. That's right. To make our viewers uncomfortable, Ferrell, I brought this up with you a couple weeks ago. In one KFFSC Best Ball, I said my top 2 tight ends, which again, KFFSC non-tight end premium, so it is what it is. But my first tight end I drafted, Tyler Warren. My second tight end I drafted was Colson Loveland. Ferrell's like, Balky, you got to get some veteran help on that team. You cannot go with just.
You're doing good with the invitation.
Thank you so much. And you know what I did?
Strong.
You know what I did for my third tight end in that format? Of course, I drafted Terrence Ferguson. So I am going to bat with 3 rookie tight ends. We'll see what happens. It's going to be fantasy football is supposed to be fun. So we'll see what happens there.
And the member of your crew that came in and said you were subject matter expert, Walid, Balky, ask him question number 3, because I'm dying to get to this because I know nothing about this subject. And I am far from an expert. Walid, please help. Here comes question number 3 from Balky.
You know what's wild is I thought I knew this a few months ago. And I don't. And like I feel like the closer we get to the start of the season, the less I know on this. You have 4 running backs in Jacksonville getting meaningful snaps in training camp. 1 is Travis Etienne, the former first-round pick. 2 is Tank Bigsby, the guy who's been really showing out, getting a lot of positive praise. Bashal Tutin is number 3, who got the draft capital, and a lot of people were very excited what he's going to do under this new leadership of James Gladstone as the GM and Liam Cohen as the head coach. And then LaQuint Allen, who is everybody's favorite late-round rookie draft pick, a pass catcher extraordinaire. I don't have a good handle on this. Do you have a favorite lead in this backfield with the Jaguars right now that you are selecting in FFPC drafts?
So I won't be biased. My wife, she's a Syracuse alum. We're going down to Atlanta to catch the Orange start the season. So we've watched a lot of LaQuint Allen, right? And I mean, he's a great receiving back, physical back. The right answer to me is just draft Trevor Lawrence, Travis Hunter, and Brian Thomas, and you figure the running back bit out. But
hold on, just real quick. Does Brenton Strange figure into that as well?
Kind of.
Yeah, but Brenton Strange it's like you're getting it's like getting like some dots at the Walmart for 99 cents. It's like, all right, you go ahead, you can put it in the cart, but like is that what you want for Halloween? Like, I don't know. But as far as the running back situation goes, it is I found myself drafting Travis Etienne simply because I do think he's going to be the most likely to really matter. Tutin maybe down the stretch, he's explosive, but what I'm looking for is big plays and receptions. And sometimes, I mean, fantasy football is a different game than actual football. And Tank Bigsby, I think, great between the tackles, runner, physical, elusive. But if I'm looking for a guy that can rack up 4 or 5 catches, break a 50-yard run, when it's week 15, 16, 17 in the sprint and I need a 30 burger, if I have to pick one, I think ETN round 8, round 9, I'm willing to take that swing.
So that's your solution on Jacksonville backfield, Ferrell.
Yeah, well, that's exactly. I feel real good because that's exactly the same thing I said, less eloquently and with more of a Southern accent. But I did say that same thing in a previous broadcast. Now, I have an observation. I'll be real quick about it. I got a buddy, J.R. Fenton, new to fantasy football, won 2 of our divisions. New in the sense that he's been playing for about 5 years now, which still gets you as a new guy here in Kentucky. But so he comes in with all these spreadsheets, and he sits down and he's put all this together, and he's making his pick, and he's using up all the clock. And he'll make a pick, and then he'll go 3, maybe 5 seconds later. Damn, I don't know. Did you have any moments like that? Because you were on a long clock, so I guess you didn't. But looking back on it in your pros and Joes, because Balky and you went through the players and did a good job of breaking it down, is there anyone that you wish you hadn't? And is there anyone that you were glad that you did?
I hate to say it like this because it's going to sound, I don't want to sound arrogant, but like when I started, doing all the slows and playing in the FFPC and you're sitting on the clock, right? And you can talk yourself into 100 different things, and you could, right after you pick, I've been there where you make a pick and you're like, as soon as I make the pick, let me hit the commissioner note, see if I can, get the repick. No. But, you kind of got to let it go. You made the pick for a reason. You got to trust your intuition. And that's just how I handle it. So when it's a 6 hour, whether it's, Pros versus Joe's main event, like I'm going to make my pick pretty quick, and usually I have a good idea, but at the same time, you never know. So I try not to beat myself up about it until season's over. And then I'll look back at the draft board and see, could I have done something different realistically? And if not, then
with 10 championships, I doubt if you're spending a whole lot of time doing it. Wish I had. Just throwing that in there. Now, does any of your crew that's in the chat play fantasy ball with you?
They do. They do. We got some home.
Will you work from your home like most? Yeah, you work from your home.
I do,
so you don't go. Are you a bedroom community kind of guy? Which airport do you use there?
DCA.
Okay. Well, I want to tell you the DCA or Baltimore. I want to point this out to you. Has a nonstop flight, 52 minutes, $79. We need to get you in Kentucky.
Is this my invite?
Yes.
You can bring this skill set. We'll still give you an invitation like the Pros versus Joes. Unfortunately, the free part is not part of the deal at this point. But
I'll buy you dinner. You don't have to.
No, sir. I'll buy you dinner. We cook so much damn fried chicken. Balky, one year Mark Salinas said, Ferrell, is it wrong if I go back and get him more chicken? I said, well, no, you get as much chicken as you want. He said, well, I've already had a dozen pieces. He's literally going into the bucket. But let's get back to fantasy football.
And Salinas, by the way, weighs like 140 pounds.
Yeah. It's all grease. And but Balky, you got another running back you can't figure out. Go ahead.
Well, there's a couple of them. There's a couple of them that I can't figure out. And I want to.
You got one that you've been trying to figure out since last year.
There's one that I want to bring up right now. That I think Lead, you and I are of the same mind on, and that's Jaylen Warren. This is a player that I feel like, and I've been saying on these airwaves, Aaron Rodgers, not that he made Aaron Jones' career, but he has checked down to running backs quite frequently over the course of his 20-plus years in the NFL. And I think that continues this year. Why? Number one, because he can't run anymore. And number two, Jaylen Warren is a pretty talented pass catcher. In the KFFSC, and I think in the FFPC as well, we have seen a lot of people, I know myself included in the KFFSC, been grabbing Jaylen Warren as my running back 3 a lot, and I feel really good about that. Is that a strong move, or is that something you would tell people to shy away from?
No, I love it. I love it. When I look at Jaylen, first of all, just Jaylen Warren, the player, if you eliminate the fact that, he's undrafted and, had to really grind his way to even get on the field, when you look at the player, he is explosive, he's physical, he's elusive, he's a really good pass catcher, and he's a good pass protector. The only thing you could say he lacks is just the home run speed, right? Like he's probably not going to rip, he doesn't have that 4.4 speed. Everything else works really well for fantasy and works really well for a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, right? 2-minute offense. I feel pretty good that Jaylen Warren's going to be the guy. They only have DK Metcalf, who's never been like a 28% target share guy. So prime opportunity right there for someone to potentially be the number 2, if not number 3 pass catcher. And then Caleb Johnson, who I think could be great. I don't know, but it feels like everyone's already assuming he's going to be the goal line back. Whereas I think some of the stuff that worked against Jaylen Warren the last few years, the veteran deference, which Najee he was the guy, he's going to be the guy. It might actually work in Jaylen Warren's favor now, whereas I think a lot of people are seeing it as, well, he was never that guy when Najee was there, so why would he be the guy now? They just spent, mind you, a 3rd-round pick, not a 1st-round pick, not a 2nd-round pick, a 3rd-round pick, and we have an offensive coordinator that we know is going to run the piss out of the ball. So he is a fun player. You're not really paying anything for him. I think worst case, you're looking at a dude who you can plug in during bye weeks. But the stealing case is you look up and he's getting 4 or 5 catches a game and scoring touchdowns on a run-heavy team.
Yeah, I think he works in best ball. I think he definitely works in managed leagues as well. Jalen Warren, I'm glad to hear you back me up on that as well. Now, I'm looking for some backup on this, and quite frankly, maybe I don't need it because I've shied away from this guy lately, even though I was drafting him heavily earlier. Marshawn Lloyd was a player that was drafted by the Packers on day 2 of the NFL draft in 2024. And he ran into a bevy of problems last year. An ankle injury. He had to have his appendix removed. I think Matt LaFleur, the head coach of the Packers, said he was just simply snake bit. And then this year, he goes down again with a soft tissue injury. It was wild because he gets hurt on a play in training camp where the Packers are convinced he hurt his hamstring. And then Nate Hobbs, the Packers corner, from the Las Vegas Raiders that they signed this past season, hits him low on the same play. So he's dealing with a couple of things. And it's weird because I believe in this guy. I don't think the Packers want a repeat of how often Josh Jacobs touched the ball in 2024. I think they want Marshawn Lloyd involved more this year, and yet he just can't stay on the field. So I have to ask you, with him getting dinged up, and I don't know if he's returned to practice yet, how concerned are you right now drafting until the start of the season? How concerned are you about this soft tissue injury, hamstring, right now for Marshawn Lloyd?
Well, it's not like he can get his appendix removed again, right? So we're good there. Sometimes things happen, right? Football, 100% injury rate. It's just too early to know if this is a guy who's going to fizzle out because of injuries and never really have the opportunity. I think he had an ACL in college. That could happen to anyone. But funny enough, he was like one of my highest drafted players even before the NFL draft. I thought the Packers invested the draft capital. He's an explosive player. I like the Packers. I like that team. And like you said, Balky, like I do think the Packers want him to have a role. So this groin thing, it seems, bite my tongue, minor. Whereas if it was any other player, I don't know if it would necessarily be a big deal, right? Because it's him, it's kind of like, okay, now we're definitely over it. So, where's he going? Round 13, these are guys that you could just drop, right? Like these are literally guys you could drop. So I'm gonna find out. So I'm right there with you. I think the offense is good. He's not gonna leave Jacobs. We know what Jacobs can bring to the table. He is a pure handcuff bet. But it's a long season, and round 16, right? To me, round 13, 15, these are like $1 players, right?
Okay. All right, let's go to a big dollar player then, because the ubiquitous John Terry is already complaining that we're talking about the same kind of.
No, okay, Ferrell, if you're going to bring up John Terry, I have to bring up his comment here that he posted. I'm going to bring this up. So based on this discussion that we're having on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour tonight, and their ADPs being in the same range, one being I had it up right here. One being Tyler Warren at his ADP at the 7-11, and Jalen Warren, his ADP being at the 805. A half round separates these Warrens. And knowing, Lead, that you can start 3 tight ends, knowing you could start 4 running backs, throw the starting lineup out the window. Which Warren would you rather have in the late 7th or early 8th?
Yeah.
Tyler or Jalen?
It'll have to be Tyler Warren simply because he can, like I said, he can get 100 catches. And in this format, that is a skeleton key. Whereas, with a player like Jalen Warren, there are other guys that can match. And grab them both because I've been grabbing them both. That's legal in all 50 states. So
yes, it is.
And
I'm glad something is.
The FFPC has no federal restrictions on drafting Tyler, Jalen, or any other Warren. You could draft Chris Warren, the old Seahawks running back. You draft him there. There's no legal restrictions that we are under to draft both these players.
Yeah, the ubiquitous John.
That's a throwback. Chris Warren is a throwback right there.
It is. I couldn't think of another Warren player.
That's amazing. I had his football card, and I didn't even know who he was.
I do too. I had, what's funny is I had Chris Warren. He was the great Seahawks running back after they had Kurt Warner, not the Rams quarterback, but the old Seahawks running back named Kurt Warner before that. It's wild, man.
Why can't I think of another player named Warren? I
can't either.
Okay. Let's go to something. A couple years ago, one of our guys in the KFFSC, won an entry to the FFPC. He goes to Vegas, first time ever, sits down in the number 1 position. Tyreek Hill was going off the board late first round. First pick of the draft, Tyreek Hill. And boy, did he pay dividends. He won his league there in the FFPC. Tyreek Hill's not that same kind of player. And I want to ask you, do you think that he bounces back from a season that I can't tell which came first, the poor performance, the challenged relationship with the other players, or his off-field demons? How do you deal with Tyreek Hill? Or do you just look the other way? Is the price too big for him with what you saw from him last year? Or is he, I love that terminology, Balky, that needs to go right into FFPC lore and maybe one of your Kentucky named teams, the Skeleton Key. I love it.
I'm adding it right now.
That's so good.
I will say that, yes, there are yellow, orange, maybe red flags, but short of anything crazy, which involves him, maybe quitting, pulling an Antonio Brown, just quitting on the team, doing all that. Right. I actually think he is a pretty high floor player if he doesn't get hurt. As long as Tua is on the field, that is really important. If Tua gets injured, now we're looking at Zach Wilson, who still might be a better option than what they had last year. But the upside is real. And look, I'm playing, I know it says 10-time FFPC league. I want to finish first from week 15 through week 17. And I haven't really come close to that. And when I look at Tyreek Hill, he's one of very few players that can go out there and get you 40 points in a game. And my perception of that hasn't changed. I don't think he necessarily has lost a step. So round 3, that's where he's going, mid-round 3. I'll tell you what, I'm more scared to not draft him than I am to take him.
I like that.
So I want to bring a quick story up here, Lead and Ferrell. We had, this was Insider Access, and I can't remember who I was talking to, but we did a segment called Players Were Too Scared to Draft, Players Were Too Scared Not to Draft, and I brought up Saquon Barkley there. So when I'm at the 103, I'm too scared to draft Barkley, but I'm also too scared not to pick him there at this point. And when you talk about Tyreek Hill, Rich Rebar was just on the Fantasy Points, one of the Fantasy Points podcasts with Scott Barrett, Theo Greminger, friends of the show. And I have to bring up what he said. He's like, when I'm coming to click Tyreek Hill in the early 3rd round, I'm scared to do it, but I'm scared to let him go to somebody else, right? And then when you think about what could happen, whether it's KFFSC or FFPC, where you could start a team with Jamar Chase and Tyreek Hill there, dude, that could be a fantasy game record for everybody else in your league, and maybe $1 million league winner if Tyreek Hill runs pure this year, which could happen. We'll see what happens with that. But I am with you. Like, we have to start considering seriously Tyreek Hill. Speaking of other shows, and I don't like to do it on this show, but I will bring this one up because I host it as well. Vince Staffolino, longtime FFPC player, longtime KFFSC player. He brought up on the Road of His High Stakes Lowdown about a month ago how there are wide receivers usually, but not always, usually in that 7 to 9 range. That if you hit on one of those guys, there's usually a few guys that in that range every year that outperform their ADP. And I think while he's right on that, I think this year might be a little bit earlier. Lead, you have a wide receiver extravaganza in rounds 5 to 6 that you've been hitting a lot of these guys. You're talking about Travis Hunter, Devonta Smith, George Pickens, Chris Olave, Jameson Williams. Now, I think I'm okay as far as shares-wise and ownership-wise on the first 2 in Smith and Hunter. I definitely don't have a lot of Pickens. I don't have enough Chris Olave, and I need to get more Jameson Williams on my teams. With those 5 guys right there, I think if you're building teams, dominant teams in the FFPC main event, you can go and make sure you get 2 running backs early and make sure you add 1, maybe 2 of these guys as your wide receiver 3 or wide receiver 4. And, dude, you are set up for a big-time run. I am 100% with you on, as you called it, the wide receiver paradise in rounds 5 and 6 this year.
Absolutely. I think after round 2, after round 2 and you get into round 3, we have to be honest, and we do this every year, and that's why I like to look back at previous draft boards. And we have to pick certain guys in round 3 and certain guys and we just do it because for whatever reason, right? We give the reason. We're like, oh, this guy scored more points last year. He's in this offense. But eventually what happens is you can't just pick everyone in round 4, and you end up getting players that, quite frankly, are just as good as the guys going in round 3. And that's how I feel about George Pickens, who he could do what T. Higgins does, right? At the 2 turn, the number 2 receiver in a high-powered pass first offense that could score a lot of touchdowns. I think he's going to be in a more dynamic role, not just locked in as like this vertical X. I could see them move him around, get him on some crossers. I mean, we haven't really seen this guy catch and run. We usually see him do his contested catch thing. Imagine if this guy catches the ball in the middle of the field full speed. He might be breaking off 40, 50-yard touchdowns in that offense. Travis Hunter, to me, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills because I'm getting him every time round 6. And you're telling me that we're just that worried that he's not going to play enough snaps, when the reality is he could end up being a top 8 wide receiver. It could be so obvious. Tomorrow they play preseason. I don't know if the starters are going to play, but you already know the second, if he did what Travion Henderson did today, he breaks a big touchdown run. All of a sudden people are like, wait, why am I taking DK Metcalf over this guy? I already know what I'm getting with DK Metcalf. And then I feel Devontae Smith is another guy where there's been times we've taken him round 2, 3, right? And the talent profile's there, but now it's guys that are being priced down because of the situation, because of some question marks, but there aren't many question marks. It's like one thing. And if they clear that one thing, we're confident in the talent. We're confident in the offensive environment. And I love that. I absolutely love that.
Okay, here's something you love. Everybody.
Real quick, Ferrell. I'm sorry. I want to interrupt you because I want to ask an addendum on Hunter and then Pickens. Liam Cohen said if they're playing 65 to 70%, or don't scratch that. Liam Cohen said if they're playing 65 to 70 snaps per game on offense, and then he just said, okay, let's say Travis Hunter is playing 80% of those snaps, which he threw that out there. That was not asked for him. He suggested 80%. And then you're talking about Travis Hunter being out there for 80% of snaps. We're loving that as fantasy owners, obviously, on that. So that's my Hunter point. And then the Pickens point I wanted to bring home here too. This dude is going at that 4-5 turn right now as wide receiver 25, knowing he's not in Pittsburgh anymore, where they develop wide receivers, and then sometimes they go on for great careers elsewhere. The every other year theory with Dak Prescott, the notion that Javonte Williams, Miles Sanders, and Jaden Blue are in the backfield for Dallas. Is the 4-5 turn too early for the number 2 pass catcher in Dallas? Is wide receiver 25 too early for George Pickens? And if it's not, how early would you consider Pickens in FFPC main event drafts this year?
So my first main event, I got him round 6, which I was licking my chops, right? I'm in a slow draft right now with 2 of my buddies. I brought them into the main event world. I'm like, we got to share a team. And I made a joke because we had a 3-4 turn pick and we were just trying to decide how we wanted to play it. We ended up taking Travion Henderson. But I was like, we were hoping that Pickens comes back at the 5-6 turn. But I was like, if you guys want Pickens right now, I'll do it too. So, but that's because I just don't think there's that much of a gap as far as draft capital between that 3-4 turn versus round 5-6. Like, it's all in our heads. So I just want to let that go. And I think it's totally valid. You can take him round 4, round 5. It's not going to matter. At the end of the day, you're not going to be like, if only I took Pickens round 5 instead of round 4. He's either going to be George Pickens that we think he can be and average 16, 17 points a game because he catches 10 touchdowns and gets 1,200 yards, or it's not going to be a good pick. He's just going to be okay. And then you move on with your life because it's not the first 2-3 round pick.
You'll be saying you could have had Pittman. That's what you'll be saying. But, now, okay.
When are we going to get Michael Pittman on as a guest on this podcast?
I don't know.
As much as we pump him up, we got to get Pittman on at some point.
Maybe after the season's over and the crops are in. I don't know. He's riding around on the tractor. Well, finishing up, I'll have a one additional commentary to Pickens. I don't think there was any player in the NFL that needed a change of scenery more than Pickens. And I think that's the biggest thing that he's got going. And he went to a team with a culture that will support him. And good deal with Pickens. You guys are on fire. So now I have to ask something. We spent the last 2 or 3, definitely 2 seasons, focusing on the Houston Texans. And everyone agrees. And I believe you will agree, Wally, that Nico Collins belongs at the end of the first round, and you're lucky to have that player on your team.
Mm-hmm.
What about the rest of this receiving core? And are we so lucky to have Nico Collins on the team because we just can't find that standout second receiver? We see some guys that have some spike games, some guys that contribute. The tight end didn't do as well last year as what we've been used to. Please break it down. Nico Collins, we agree. Tell me what we should do with the rest of these guys.
Draft him. Honestly, it probably sounds ridiculous. Like, who do I not like, right, at this point?
Yeah.
But I love the Texans, right? I get the concerns of that offensive line. Listen, people were taking C.J. Stroud in round 6, round 5, 7. I thought that was crazy. You're going to take a pocket passer, regardless of how incredible his rookie season was. I think I got him in like round 16, 17, in a draft earlier. But Nico Collins is like modern day Julio Jones. If he's healthy, that's who he looks like when I watch him. I'm just like, this guy is just different. I think that Jaden Higgins, where are we, round 9, round 10? Yes, sir. Sign me up. I'll take that. And then Jalen Noel, I'm like, he reminds me of Tank Dell. He's also a very physical seam stretcher. He can get downfield. Obviously, all 3 of these guys aren't going to just necessarily hit your lineup. Like, they're maybe better in best ball sort of situations. But I've been drafting all 3. I'm very overweight on the Texans. If they can protect CJ, I think this is a quarterback that can throw 40 touchdowns, right? I think this is an offensive environment that can really – they can do what the Bengals did, right? Now, my concern is their defense is really good. So, in turn, that might prevent them from really airing it out. But a lot of the concerns around their offensive line last year, I mean, they lost Laramie Tunsil, probably not good to get let go of your all-pro left tackle. But it seemed like a lot of their issues were pass protection, coaching, like unblocked guys. So CJ, to me, is one of the best pocket passers in the league. And we like that for fantasy because that means he's going to air it out. He's not going to just hold the ball, get sacked, scramble. So there's definitely an opportunity for multiple guys to pay off, and it just might be in different parts of the season.
He's going to go through the progressions of who he wants to hit as a wide receiver, and you can count on those guys as being Tank Dell. Does Tank Dell remind you of Tank Dell?
I love me some Tank Dell, man. I really wish him the best. It's just been as far as Jalen Noel, he gives me that sort of vibe. I think he may be a little more like stockier, more physical. He's tough. He has a little Steve Smith to him, but Jalen Noel is a guy. Christian Kirk is solid. So that's kind of a little gap. I like maybe Noel a little more in Dynasty where you can hold him, see what happens. But also in redraft, stick him in your bench. It's a long season. One guy gets hurt, all of a sudden it's week 10, and you're looking at Jalen Noel as the number 2 receiver on this team.
I like the third-year player Hutchinson too. But I like those kind of players, and that's why I don't have 10 championships to talk about.
Well, okay, so here's the thing. We've been talking about Jaden Higgins. I just posted he's going even later than you thought, Walid, where he's going at the 10:09. And I think this is a good opportunity for us to just briefly talk about the rookie wide receivers this year. Travis Hunter, we've talked about ad nauseum. Jaden Higgins, we just brought up. Luther Burden, we haven't talked about, who might be playing the slot in Ben Johnson's offense. Now, whether he comes through the way that Amon-Ra St. Brown came through in previous years, that's up for debate. We have Matthew Golden in Green Bay, which I'm slowly issuing my mea culpa on him based on all the positive stuff that has come out from Packers beat writers about Matthew Golden. And then, my God, the new idol that everybody is worshiping right now in redraft, in best ball, in dynasty, Emeka Egbuka, especially with the poor positive, or excuse me, I want to say negative, the lack of positive reports coming out of Tampa on Chris Godwin's ankle right now. But when it comes to rookie receivers, this is a position and this is a group of guys you've been drafting a lot in redraft leagues this year.
Absolutely. Like I think I've drafted 8 main event teams, and I guarantee every single one of those teams, my wide receiver 5 or 6 is either Egbuka, Burden, Higgins, Golden. It just feels too easy. It really does. These are really good. These are really good prospects. You can once again nitpick the situation. The situation is not ideal for week 1. Like you're not. You're not playing Luther Burden week 1. You're probably not playing Egbuka week 1. Higgins, maybe if you have Rashee Rice and okay, fine. But that's fine. We're not playing to win week 1. And these are exactly the type of players that down the stretch of the season, you just want on your bench. I do not want my opponents to be able to put Luther Burden week 10 when all of a sudden, they realize this guy is going to be a key part of the offense. And it might not happen. And you know what? That's okay too. Even if I go 1 for 4, 3 of them don't do anything but burn holes in my roster, but 1 of them pays off, I'm happy about that.
With the price that you have to get them, for sure. Yeah. It makes perfect sense. We do have a question from YouTube. Jenna Talia, who is hanging out watching us tonight, has a question on RB2 right now. And I'll put this to you right now, Lead. You have running back 13, Omarion Hampton, at the 305, and Breece Hall at the running back 15 at the 310. Less than a half round separates these two players. Hampton, the rookie, Breece Hall, the veteran, which we have. I mean, I feel like he's as polarizing as they get right now in high stakes fantasy football. As far as your RB2 goes, which guy would you rather have?
I want to say I like both of them, but if I had to pick one, I am going to stick with Breece Hall. There's been a lot of Braylon Allen buzz, and if they just if teams decide to not guard him in the flats and then, no one's tackling and he's running, 60 yards down the field, sure. But I feel like Breece Hall is getting kind of an unfair rap right now. He didn't have a good year last year, but that entire offense was garbage, right? The culture around the team was really poor. But Breece Hall is one of the most explosive running backs in the league. And he's an incredible receiving back. And I think when the pads come on and the game start, all of a sudden, giving the ball to Braylon Allen 15 times when you give it to Breece Hall and he rips a 40-yard run, like that's not going to sound as appetizing. But I think Omarion Hampton is also a really good pick. And quite frankly, those are the reasons why it's easier to take one of those guys, because you can get these receivers later that are going to match. So to answer that, I lean slightly towards Breece Hall, but I think those are the guys you want to be picking in round 3.
Ferrell, you're going to ask the final question for Lead here
in
a second. Yes, you are. But
Balky, you've been peppering with such good questions.
I know. I'm going to pepper him with one more here before you ask the final question.
Please. And I want to follow up on some of Rubio's stuff.
Okay, we're going to get to what Rubio's saying in the chat. But before we do, Lead, you're wearing the Commanders hat tonight. This is just begging us to ask you about the Commanders offense this year. I'm going to let you take this however you want to go. We have heard a lot of people, and it's growing louder, that Jaden Daniels is going to win the MVP this year. We have heard a lot of people saying you got to draft Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt late in drafts because he is going to be a difference maker this year over Brian Robinson, over Austin Eckler. And then the receivers, my God, the receivers. There's so much to talk about here. Terry McLaurin holding out, Deebo Samuel, a new arrival, Luke McCaffrey maybe showing out something that we haven't seen before from him, and then the tight ends. Ben Sinnott, is he going to take a step forward or is he not? And Zach Ertz is the guy that you want to draft there as well. The Commanders offense, you as a Commanders fan, clearly, what do you foresee for this squad in 2025?
Well, as far as how I want to play it through fantasy, I think I'm going to have to go with Deebo Samuel. I think that he stands to look. Here's one thing we don't. He's a 29-year-old receiver. He's dealt with injuries. He didn't have a good year. It could be over, right? Like that's just how it goes. One day you're here, well, next day you're just over the cliff. But if it's not, if he does have some juice, this is like the perfect situation for him to land in. And I could almost argue it's better than it was in San Francisco. Number one, there's just less mouths to feed, right? Number two, it's a fast tempo offense that's going to be designed to get him the ball real quick. Screen game underneath. He's a very unconventional receiver. He's not a man beater. He's not going to win down the field. But look, who led the league in plays per game last year? It was the Commanders. They were running like 66 plays a game. The defense is questionable. I think he's going to get involved in the red zone. So he's the kind of guy that I think his production, if healthy, is going to be a lot closer to Terry than maybe folks think, or he could surpass him. Shout out to Benson out, because I do think that's a guy who you keep on your bench. He's your tight end 3, and you're patient, and it may never come. It just may never come, and you have to be okay with it. But once again, it could be a situation where if Ertz goes down, or if they decide, okay, it's time to change the guard, we invested a round 2 pick, this guy has some juice, let him play. He's really athletic, and I want to find out. So Krosky Merritt's exciting, sure. I don't, he's kind of a explosive back. I think he's more of a threat to Brian Robinson's role. Mm-hmm. Austin Eckler's interesting as a pass catcher. I think he's another guy that where he's going, it's kind of like a Jalen Warren prototype, except cheaper, right? So Terry, I love Terry. I mean, what he means to the team is like he is the heart, the pulse of this team. But for fantasy purposes, I don't draft him where he's going, round 3, 4, and I'm not afraid of not drafting him.
So just as a quick follow-up on the McLaurin thing, I'll tell everybody this right now. Terry McLaurin's ADP over the last 2 days in the FFPC Big Gorilla, wide receiver 21, he's fallen now lead until the 4-11. So he is going in the 4th round, but late 4th round. What's the percentage chance, as a guy who follows the team, what's the percentage chance that McLaurin and the Commanders get a deal done before week 1?
I think they'll get it done.
So like 90%, 95%, you think that this is
gonna happen? I'd say it's pretty certain. I think it is. I'm trying to think of all the outcomes. Are they going to trade him? I don't see that happening. He's under contract. I think he wants to be here. I think it's just one of these things where we may look back at it and it's like, oh, remember when Terry McLaurin didn't show up to camp for a while? Mm-hmm. So yeah, to say buy the dip, like this is the time to draft him. I think round 4 or 5, all of a sudden he's not a bad pick, right? But with that said, I'm looking for guys that can like shatter the league in those ranges. I want like 17, 18. I want to get greedy. I want week 15 through 17, a guy that can average 25 points.
Wow.
Terry can do that. Terry can definitely do that. But I think there are other guys that I can see it a little easier with.
I love that. Now, other guys that we can see a little easier, I want to know where the crew is. I want to know where your crew is. They need to come weigh in here. We need to hear them in the comments. They need to stick with us to the very end of the show. Balky, who's producing the show tonight?
That would be me, because Bryce is commissioned.
Balky. Well, good. Yeah. I would like to put in a producer's note and suggestion. My producer's note is based on the last answer and the energy level that we have from our guest. I would like to take the show into Saturday. I would like to stay here till midnight. And you don't have anything to do.
I'm just moving this weekend, but I'll pack tomorrow.
Well, hold on. Where are you moving to, Walid?
Kentucky. You need to come here. We got a lot of people who need a job.
Yeah.
And where are you moving?
Just down the street.
Down the street.
Into a little apartment.
It's Virginia.
Yeah. Not quite. My wife would not support that. We're city folks out here.
Hey, there's your guy. There's your guy right there. I love that.
Ferrell, did you have some follow-ups on what Rubio was saying in the chat?
Well, Rubio had a question back when we were talking about Salinas, our 2016 champion, and the volume of fried chicken that he always eats when he comes here live. And this year he's drafting online. I think he goes and gets a bucket, where he can just eat it in peace. But Rubio was saying he looks like Colonel Sanders, and I don't know who he's talking about. You've got the beard. Well, he's got the glasses. I've got the hair.
It's all three of us.
Yeah. Who looks like? Well, I don't think so, because Balky, your friend Don Erickson showed up in a white suit once. And looked more like the Colonel. Hey, your guy QVAR7, he's coming in strong for you. There's your main wingman while he engages.
Okay, so QVR7, I do have to ask you this. Your thought, he wants to know your thoughts on Shadir Sanders, who started for Cleveland tonight. I wouldn't say lit the world on fire, but he definitely didn't pee down his leg. Shadir Sanders for fantasy in 2025 and beyond right now, lead.
I mean, sure. I'm trying.
It's enthusiastic. I love the enthusiasm there for the Colorado quarterback. Now we had Bill Hollywood, the beloved Bill Hollywood, made a statement earlier that had cross purposes. He says Sanders looks really good. Remind me of a young Jameis. How can you can't say both those things in the same sentence, Bill Hollywood, but that's okay.
Well, hey, if he looks like a young Jameis, then maybe I should be drafting Jerry Jeudy.
Oh, well, now that's true. That's
spicy.
True.
Very true. Very true. By the way, for anybody who's wondering tonight, Shadir Sanders in this opening preseason game for Cleveland, he did start the game 14-23, 138 yards. He did throw 2 scores. Also had 4 carries for 19 yards. The 2 scores were to Caden Davidson and Cade McDonald was a 2. It was a Caden and Cade.
Hey,
this
Cade's
is crazy.
playing. Yeah, Cade's playing.
I'll say this: I think Flacco and him are the best path for actual fantasy production on that team. I do not want to see Kenny Pickett out there. That's just my preference.
Yeah, I'm with you.
May have settled from out in Oklahoma. Hawkey may have settled my question. Okay, here's a real fantasy football question. The chat room wants us to get back to some relevance. You give a good breakdown on so many players, and it's a thrill to listen to you, and you always seem to find the positive. Find me a negative. Find me a player that is just not going to see your roster, and then tip your hat to one guy that you're really on the hunt for.
Okay, you're putting me on the spot, and I should have prepared a little better.
I think you're well prepared, sir.
I think you are too.
Balky and I have determined that you are prepared.
Yeah, well, I'll lay it out. Yeah, I'll lay it out like this. When it comes to Caleb Johnson, when it comes to guys like DeAndre Swift, Aaron Jones, that just realm of running backs, I need to get real. Like, if I'm taking a running back, I need to get really excited. I need to look at you as a potential guy that could the following year be around 2 pick. And so in some ways, I'm just hating on a lot of running backs. It's not for what they do for their teams, but for the purpose of our game, PPR fantasy football. And I think Caleb Johnson, he's like the most priced up version of that. Now, you could look at me crazy and I could be wrong. And he could, end up being the RB1, breaking touchdown runs, scoring 15 touchdowns this year. I'm willing to find out the hard way with a player like that. And then a guy, I'll say that I am just for entertainment purposes, because you guys know how I feel about those receivers, Travis Hunter, Pickens, Devontae Smith. Are we sure that Jameson Williams is not the next Tyreek Hill?
You listen. For the audio listeners, I am pointing at Walid right now because this is a player that I am, and I'm gonna drive this point home over the next month. The offense is not Ben Johnson's anymore. The drumbeat we have heard from Detroit is that they want to push the ball downfield more this year. That is not Laporta's game. It is not St. Brown's game. It is one Jameson Williams game. This could be the year of Whiskey Bill. Are we sure that he's not the next Tyreek Hill? No, we are not sure. Is it probable? No. Is it possible? Sure. Oh, hell yes, it's possible.
Yeah.
So I'm with you on Jameson Williams here for sure.
It's fascinating to me where, like, and we all love Amon-Ra, right? He is exactly the type of chain mover, the guy that he is worth that round 2 pick, round 1 that he has gone. But people look at me crazy when I'm like, are we sure that Jameson can't be better than him? It sounds ridiculous, right? It sounds ridiculous until all of a sudden it isn't. And I would say that with a player like Jameson Williams, he is arguably the most explosive receiver. And if he can really, if the offense can just get him a couple more design targets and make him the primary read, I'd love to see what can happen. And he doesn't need 150 targets. What if he gets 125, 130 targets?
Yeah. Yeah. And he, like, bear in mind, last year in the Ben Johnson offense, which was predicated to go to Laporta, Gibbs, Montgomery, and St. Brown, where Jameson Williams, I don't want to say was an afterthought, but he was never the primary guy. He got over 1,000 yards receiving last year. We have to remember that. So I want to put you on the spot here, Lead. Eric Tovar, your buddy. Jameson Williams or George Pickens in redraft this year, right now in the FFPC Big Gorilla. You look at these two players. Pickens is going at wide receiver 25 at the 501. Jameson Williams, wide receiver 27 at the 506. It is going to be very difficult for you to get both of these guys in that format unless you're overdrafting one. You can only have one, Lead. Who is it going to be, Williams or Pickens?
I'm going to go with Pickens simply because the path is simpler, right? The path is simpler. He just needs to show up and be the number 2 in a really, really good offense, whereas there's just more question marks around Detroit. There are other mouths to feed. Laporta is really good. They do have a running game. They're going to stick with the running game. Gibbs is arguably the 101, right? You can make a case for him. So I would go with Pickens just because it is less things have to happen, right? Like Jameson has to like take the next step that I think he can take, whereas Pickens just needs to be the guy that I already know he is.
Yeah, which is an excellent point. And forgive me, did I miss the player that you don't want to draft on your teams this year?
I said Caleb Johnson.
You did say that, yeah.
But I also said Chuba Hubbard. I was off Joe Mixon. It's these running backs in that range where the receivers that I like are going.
Yes.
And I'm just like,
it's a double-edged sword. You don't really like the running back, but you love those receivers.
Yeah.
And I feel way more confident in my ability to find running backs that can match those later in the draft than I feel about my ability to identify those receivers.
Well, give us 2 of those guys that you're going to find later in the draft.
At the running back position, there is some fun guys like Tajay Spears, who also profiles.
I definitely like Spears as well, for sure. So you mentioned Spears. You can mention somebody else, but let me interrupt you. Krosky Merritt, yes or no?
Round 15, 16, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
He was drafted in Kentucky in the 11th round.
Oh, my God.
That's way too much. That's too
much. And this is a league where you must start 3 wide receivers. So the wide receivers are shooting up the board. The running backs are falling. He was drafted in the 11th round, and so was Woody Marks.
Yeah.
I'm not paying the iron price for JCM.
And there's so many, like, you got Jarquez Hunter. I really like a lot. I probably like him more than JCM. You have got like Marshawn Lloyd. He fits this profile where even Kendre Miller, I won't admit it out loud, but I guess I just did. But
you just did. Yes, you just did.
They do. I feel as though it's a clearer path where it's going to take an injury. We don't want anyone to get injured, right? But if it was to happen, I could see a situation where a player like that gets 60, 70% of the work. Whereas with Krosky Merritt, let's say he takes over, he's probably going to leap Brian Robinson. Austin Eckler's still going to be there. Deebo Samuel's still going to probably be involved. So I do like cleaner bets, where I'm just like, I just need one thing to happen, and then it is pretty straightforward.
Walid Makbul. My God, this was fun. You have been so
Not
entertaining.
Saturday yet, Balky. We got 40 more minutes.
Well, we can't go on for 40 minutes. I got my wife already coming into my office twice.
She's a lovely girl. I talked to her this past weekend.
Yeah.
You tell her that Ferrell requested it and that Walid had his crew here, and she'll understand.
She would understand, but not tonight. She won't. So here's the thing. Walid, we will definitely have you back on in the future for sure, whether it's on this show or one of the other FFPC family of podcasts. This was a tremendous treat. Are you on X at all?
I used to be. I do have a little burner to keep up with,
Okay.
And I gotta know what's happening, right? I gotta freak out over training camp injury news, but I'm not active anymore. I'm just lurking in the weeds.
Well, listen, you will have to be active once you win that $1 million.
The lead lurker. Balky.
Yeah, the lead lurker. I'm going to put that on there.
Yeah.
I'm adding that on right now. You will have to be more prominent when you cash this $1 million grand prize in the FFPC main event this year. And if you do finish first, we will definitely see you in the 2026 FFPC main event. And if you finish second in the FFPC Pros versus Joe's draft, slow draft, Ferrell will be cordially sending you a lovely pair of socks to hopefully make up for the fact that second place does not get anything. Ferrell's making up for that this year.
Yeah,
thank you so much for
that.
Exactly.
And we'll measure you up for those socks when you show up in Kentucky this year. So
there you go. That's
measurement while you're moving.
The measurement is coming. Listen, safe travels to you. I know you're only going down the road, but with moving, it's always a cluster. Good luck in all of your leagues going forward here tonight and the rest of the drafting season. It was a pleasure having you on. Good luck in Pros versus Joes. Congratulations on a draft that Ferrell and I both sign off on for sure. Don't be a stranger. We'll talk with you again soon.
Appreciate y'all. Y'all have a lovely weekend, and it's been an honor.
Thank you so much. That is Walid Makbul, the 10-time FFPC League champion, of course, Pros versus Joe's drafter, and he is looking forward to bigger things in 2025, cashing that FFPC main event $1 million grand prize. Now, if you want to compete with Walid, we hope in Kentucky, the place to go to is KFFSC.com, Ferrell. A lot of stuff is still available, but I say a lot is a relative term because what is available right now is much smaller than it was a week ago. And as you always say, and I think you coined this term with the KFFSC, don't be a wish I had.
You don't want to be a wish I had, and because and Balky, when you can come hang out with guys like you, who wouldn't want to do that? We've got some spots left on Saturday night. We're down to our last 6 spots. We've got a peppering of spots on Sunday. Friday is completely sold out. We're pushing our opportunities online this year because, look, if you haven't planned to come to Kentucky at this point, it's likely that you aren't. Although, we're gonna really work on it. And all these characters that are in I got a feeling that they travel together.
Yes,
kind of like loading up the van,
So what we got right now, the Super Luke is the KFFSC main event that is available right now. Jim Cole and I are sharing a team in that. We joined it this afternoon. Steven Yergalos, our good buddy, has also joined that draft as well. I need everybody to join that draft, so Steve and I will not be selecting next to each other. We need to be on
Bob
opposite ends
Hogan's
of the
coming
draft.
in there.
Oh, there you go. That's another one too. Perfect. So this is good. That is going to start when it's full. We have draft spots open in the fullback dive division coming up next Sunday. That is open. And then I'm looking at the schedule, dude, right now, like starting next week, you have pretty much like live drafts going off every single night. You got, if you look at the shotgun division on August 26th, that's a Tuesday. There's only 5 spots left in that. You look at next Thursday, August 21st, Night Owl. We already have 3 teams signed up for that. And you said plenty of teams getting into the red right now with, if you want to draft live in Louisville against me and with me, it's going to be a blast. It's always a party every single year. And I think that's the best way to describe it. Like, we just party, we talk fantasy football, and sometimes drafting gets in the way in the KFFSC main event, which is fine because we love doing that as well. Good luck next weekend in Northern Kentucky with everything, and I will see you in Louisville in 2 weeks, my friend.
It'll be great. Talk to you soon.
That is Ferrell Elliott, the definitive commissioner of fantasy football. Check out his competition at kffsc.com. And chances are, if you're drafting live in Louisville, you will be in a draft with me because I have 14 of them scheduled 2 weeks from now, starting on Friday afternoon, going all the way through Sunday evening. I want to thank Walid Makbul. I want to thank Ferrell Elliott, the FFPC, Rob, Bryce, and of course, each and every one of you for listening, watching, streaming, downloading, and checking this podcast out. We will be back this coming Friday night with not one, but 2 guests. Number one, coming up right up at the top of the hour, and we go live at 10 p.m. on Friday. It is the defending KFFSC main event champion, Craig Campbell. He will be coming on to talk about how he's going to defend the title and all of his leagues this year, how he's been stockpiling talent. So you'll be able to hear from a champion. And in the second half of the hour, you'll be able to hear from a guy who's been doing content in the fantasy football business, my God, since the 90s. This is a guy who's won a slew of leagues in the high-stakes industry as well. Mike Nazarick, the webmaster of ffmastermind.com, joins us to talk about his Pros versus Joes draft, as well as how his FFPC drafts are going. So Craig Campbell, Mike Nazarick, it's the perfect KFFSC preview episode that is coming up next week. In case you missed it, Insider Access on the Better Sports Network this past Thursday evening, I hung out with the product manager for DraftSharks.com, Alex Korf. He dropped a lot of knowledge on the tools and how they're built for dominance, your unfair advantage for Draft Sharks, as well as some player evals as well. Always love our yearly conversation with Alex Korf. You can watch that on the Better Sports Network or the FFPC BSN socials as well, in case you missed it. And then we'll be coming back Thursday night at 7 p.m. until 9 p.m. this coming Thursday. Justin Boone, who is now with Yahoo Fantasy, he will be joining me for 2 full hours. Looking very forward to that. I've been trying to get him on the show for years. Finally, our schedules align, and he will be on this Thursday. In case you missed the high stakes lowdown presented by RotoViz and the FFPC this past Tuesday, I had Rick Raymaker on, a guy who has won a slew of FFPC leagues over the year. He also was in the FFPC Pros versus Joes Challenge. We broke down his draft in the PVJ this year. We talked about his other leagues that are coming up and that have already taken place in the FFPC. So good stuff from Rick on that. That was the mid-season finale of the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown. You can watch that on any of the FFPC socials or anywhere you get podcasts. The next High Stakes Lowdown will be coming up the Wednesday night after week 1. So after Paris, Vegas Casino and Resort, after we all draft out there for the FFPC live events, that following Wednesday, we will have a brand new RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown, and that will be weekly. After that Wednesday, we will go live Tuesday night every single week throughout football season at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Big Gorilla Tournament, FFPC Main Event, FFPC Best Ball Tournament, FFPC Superflex Best Ball Tournament, and FFPC Dynasty Startups available right now at myffpc.com. In fact, we got a draft still going on tonight. I'll update you on that shortly as far as how many spots are left in the midnight draft. Check that out at myffpc.com. The drafts start up at 11 a.m. Eastern Time tomorrow. I will be commissioning all day, so I will see you in the draft rooms as you register for that. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment on this stream, share it with your friends, share it with your enemies, and get notified each and every time we go live. Your weekend officially starts right now.
This has been another episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by myffpc.com. It was broadcast live and was watched around the world. Balky and Ferrell will be back next week with more analysis, more interviews, and more advice from guests much smarter than they are. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk with you again next week.
I told you I'd update it, and I'm updating you on it right now. The midnight draft for the FFPC Big Gorilla with $1 million at stake. Just $350 to enter that competition. 4 teams left, 4 openings in that midnight draft. My best friend Bryce will be commissioning that tonight. So pop in, tell him I sent you. 4 spots left. Draft for $1 million. Where else are you going to be able to do that here, as well as going for a free jungle safari for 4? It all starts in 25 minutes. See you there. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll be back with Craig Campbell, Ferrell Elliott, and Mike Nazarick next week right here live on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour.